The snow was falling that night, soft, silent, the kind that muffles every sound until the world feels wrapped in cotton. But inside that farmhouse, 20 miles outside Winnipeg, something was breathing, something that shouldn't have been there. The family heard it first in the walls, then in the room with them. Manitoba, a province of endless fields, frozen lakes, and forests that stretch beyond sight. Beautiful, isolated, and home to stories that most people refuse to believe. Stories whispered in small towns, documented in police reports that were buried. Encounters that left marks on people who swore they'd never speak of them again. Until now. Few outsiders understand what happens in the deep cold, when winter nights last 16 hours, when you're 40 miles from the nearest neighbor, when the only sound is wind scraping across ice. That's when the thin places open. That's when people see things, hear things, things that folklore tried to warn us about. This is what really happened. 10 true accounts from Manitoba. Real people, real fear, and no easy explanations. Before you go any further into this darkness, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, because here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. And trust me, you'll want to remember where you heard these. The first story takes us to a stretch of highway that locals call the Vanishing Road. It was late October when Sarah Chen drove north from Winnipeg toward Thompson. A work trip, routine. She'd made the drive a dozen times before, but this time, around 11 at night, somewhere past Grand Rapids, her GPS stopped working. Just went dark. No signal. No nothing. She kept driving. The highway was empty. No other cars. No lights except her headlights cutting through the dark. And then she saw it, a figure, standing on the shoulder of the road, perfectly still, wearing what looked like old clothes, dark, heavy. Sarah slowed down. Her first thought was someone needed help. Broken down car. Emergency. She pulled over about 30 feet past the figure and looked in her rearview mirror. Nothing. The road behind her was empty. She got out of the car, called out. Her voice disappeared into the trees like the forest swallowed it whole. The air was wrong, too still, too cold, like stepping into a freezer. And then she heard footsteps on gravel, slow, deliberate, coming from behind her car. But when she turned, still nothing, just darkness and the hum of her engine. Sarah got back in, locked the doors, started driving fast. 3 miles later, she saw the figure again. Same spot on the shoulder, same posture, same clothes. Impossible. She'd just passed them. She'd driven 3 miles, but there they were. She didn't stop this time, but every few miles, there it was again, standing, watching, always in the same position, always on the right shoulder, always facing the road. Sarah drove for 2 hours straight, never stopped, never slowed down, and according to her odometer, she should have been in Thompson. But the landscape never changed, just trees, darkness, and that figure, over and over. At some point, near dawn, the road just ended. Not construction, not a detour. The pavement simply stopped and turned into gravel, and sitting in the middle of that gravel road was an old pickup truck, rusted, windows shattered, covered in frost. She turned around, hands shaking, and somehow, within 20 minutes, she was back on the main highway. Normal traffic, sunlight breaking through the clouds, her GPS working again. Sarah reported it to the RCMP. They nodded, took notes, and one officer, older, looked at her and said, "You're not the first. The locals near Grand Rapids know about that road. Some say it's the spirit of a trapper who froze to death in the 1800s. Others say it's older than that, older than roads, older than names. But everyone agrees on one thing. If you see that figure, don't stop. And whatever you do, don't look it in the eyes. Have you ever felt like the road you were driving on wasn't the same one you started on? Let me know in the comments, because this next story is about a place where the ground itself remembers. In the winter of 2009, a research team was sent to investigate strange electromagnetic readings near a remote area called the Interlake region. Boggy land, marshes, lakes that freeze solid for months, the kind of place you don't go without a guide. The team consisted of 3 scientists, 2 men, 1 woman, all experienced, all skeptical. They were measuring soil composition and magnetic anomalies, routine environmental work, nothing unusual. Until the 3rd night, they'd set up camp near a clearing surrounded by black spruce and tamarack trees. Temperature had dropped to -30, the kind of cold that makes your lungs ache. They were inside the main tent, reviewing data, when they heard it. Drumming, low, rhythmic, coming from somewhere in the trees. At first, they thought it was another group, locals, maybe a ceremonial gathering, but the sound was wrong, too deep, too resonant, like it was coming from underground. One of the scientists, a man named David, stepped outside with a flashlight. The drumming stopped. Silence, complete and absolute. Not even wind. He scanned the tree line. Nothing, just his breath freezing in the air. He went back inside. The drumming started again, louder this time, closer. The woman, named Elena, checked her equipment. The electromagnetic readings were spiking, off the charts, patterns that made no sense, oscillations that shouldn't exist in natural conditions. Then the voices started. Not words, not language they recognized, just sounds, guttural, layered, like multiple people speaking at once, but not in sync. The voices seemed to come from every direction, surrounding the tent. David grabbed a recording device, pressed record, stepped outside again. This time he walked toward the sound. 20 feet, 30 feet. The voices grew louder, closer, but he still couldn't see anyone. And then the flashlight died. Not the batteries. The entire device just stopped, like something drained it in seconds. He stood there in the dark, the voices now right next to him. He could feel breath on his neck, cold, wet, rotten. He ran back to the tent. The others pulled him inside, zipped it shut, and they sat there in the dark, listening. The drumming and voices continued for 3 hours, then stopped all at once, like someone flipped a switch. In the morning, they found footprints in the snow, bare feet, dozens of them, circling the tent, over and over. But the prints didn't lead anywhere. They just appeared in a circle and stopped. The team packed up and left. The recordings, static, white noise, nothing coherent. But the electromagnetic data showed something else. A spike so powerful It burned out 2 sensors, readings that suggested concentrated energy, localized, intelligent. The research team filed their report. It was never published. The land they camped on is considered sacred by local indigenous communities, and some elders, when asked, simply said, "You weren't supposed to camp there. That ground has been speaking for a long time. You just finally listened." Would you camp in a place like that, even if you didn't believe? Tell me below, because this next story takes us even deeper into the lakes. Lake Winnipeg is massive, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world, and beneath its surface, something moves. In the summer of 2012, a group of fishermen were out on the southern basin. Early morning, calm water, perfect conditions. They'd been fishing this lake their whole lives, knew every depth, every current, every danger. But that morning, they saw something. At first, it looked like a log, floating, maybe 30 feet from the boat, dark, long. They ignored it. Logs drift all the time. But then it moved against the current, smooth, deliberate. One of the men, named Thomas, grabbed binoculars. What he saw made his hands shake. The object was moving just below the surface, serpentine, segments, like a massive spine flexing underwater. It was at least 20 feet long, maybe longer, and it was heading straight toward them. They started the engine. The thing accelerated, keeping pace effortlessly. Thomas's friend grabbed a camera, took 3 photos. The creature surfaced briefly, just the top of what looked like a ridge, dark green, almost black, slick. And then it dove. The water beneath the boat churned. Something massive passed underneath. The boat rocked hard. Everyone grabbed onto something, and then it was gone. They reported it to local authorities, showed the photos, blurry, inconclusive, but enough to show something large, something alive. The photos circulated online. Skeptics called it a sturgeon, a log, a hoax. But the fishermen knew, and they weren't the only ones. Over the years, dozens of reports have come from Lake Winnipeg, sightings of something enormous, something that doesn't match any known species. The Cree and Anishinaabe communities have stories about it, older than colonization, a creature they call Mishebeshu, the water lynx, a spirit, a guardian, a warning. Scientists dismiss it, but the reports keep coming. Always the same description: serpentine, massive, intelligent, and always it leaves before anyone can get a clear look. What lives in the deep, cold water? What swims beneath us when we think we're alone? Maybe some things are better left unseen. If that sent chills down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe, because here at Chills from Reality, we're just getting started. The next story comes from a town most people have never heard of, a place called Steinbach, population 15,000, quiet, religious, family-oriented, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and where everyone knows you don't talk about the house on Willowbrook Road. It's been abandoned since the early 2000s, a small farmhouse, white paint peeling, windows boarded up, surrounded by overgrown fields. No one goes near it, not even kids on dares, because in 2003, a family lived there, parents and 2 daughters, normal people. The father worked construction. The mother was a teacher. The girls were in elementary school. One morning in December, the father didn't show up for work. His boss called. No answer. The next day, a neighbor noticed the family car was still in the driveway. Mail piling up. No movement inside. Police performed a welfare check. What they found was never fully disclosed, but the official report states the family was found unresponsive. No signs of violence, no forced entry, no carbon monoxide, no explanation. All four of them were in the living room, sitting, eyes open, like they'd just stopped. Autopsies were inconclusive. No toxins, no trauma, no medical cause of death. The case was closed. Cause unknown. But the neighbors knew more. Things they didn't tell police. Things that sounded insane. Weeks before the family died, they'd started acting strange, quiet, withdrawn. The daughters stopped going to school. The mother stopped showing up to work. People who visited said the house felt wrong, heavy, like the air was thicker inside. And there were sounds at night, whispers, scratching in the walls, footsteps on the stairs when no one was there. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Margaret, said she saw lights in the windows late at night. Not normal lights, flickering, green, like candles, but wrong. After the family died, the house sat empty. No one wanted it, not even for free. And then the incidents started. Teenagers broke in. Every single one reported the same thing, a feeling of being watched, an overwhelming sense of dread, and voices, faint, coming from upstairs, calling their names. One group found something in the basement, symbols scratched into the concrete, not graffiti, old, deliberate, geometric patterns that didn't match anything local. And in the center of the floor, a burn mark, circular, black, like something had been set on fire there. To this day, the house stands empty. The town refuses to demolish it. Some say it's because no construction crew will touch it. Others say it's because the land itself is cursed, that whatever happened to that family is still happening, still waiting. If you've ever felt a house reject you, you know the feeling. Let me know in the comments, because the next story takes us to a place where nature itself turns hostile. In 2016, a hiker named Colin disappeared in Riding Mountain National Park. Experienced outdoorsman, knew the trails, carried GPS, emergency supplies, everything you're supposed to have. He went out on a solo 3-day hike, told his family exactly where he'd be, expected back on Sunday. Monday came, no Colin. Search and rescue launched immediately. They found his car at the trailhead, found his campsite, tent still up, sleeping bag undisturbed, food untouched, but no Colin. His GPS tracker showed something strange. For the first day, his route was normal, following the trail, steady pace. But on the second day, the tracker showed erratic movement, loops, backtracking, zigzags, like he was lost or running. Then the signal stopped, dead center in an area called the Gorge Creek Valley. Dense forest, steep ravines, hard to navigate, even in daylight. The search team combed the area for 2 weeks. Dogs, drones, volunteers, nothing. And then, 23 days after he disappeared, Colin walked out of the forest, alive, barefoot, covered in scratches and dirt, delirious. He was hospitalized immediately, dehydrated, malnourished, hypothermic, but alive. When he was stable enough to talk, the Rangers asked him what happened. Colin said he didn't remember most of it, just fragments. He remembered hiking the first day, setting up camp, going to sleep, and then waking up somewhere else, not his campsite, deeper in the woods. His gear was gone, his boots were gone, and the sun was in the wrong position. He tried to find his way back, but the trails didn't make sense. Landmarks he knew were gone or moved. He walked for what felt like days, but his watch had stopped. Time didn't feel right, and he wasn't alone. He heard footsteps, matching his pace, always just out of sight. When he stopped, they stopped. When he ran, they ran. He never saw who it was, but he felt watched constantly. One night, he said, he found a clearing. In the center was a circle of stones, perfectly arranged, too perfect, and inside the circle, his boots sitting there, like someone left them for him. He didn't take them. Something told him not to. The next morning, he woke up near a road, miles from where he'd been. No memory of how he got there, just there. Medical tests showed no drugs, no head trauma, no explanation. Colin's story never changed. He genuinely believed something took him, something kept him, and for reasons he doesn't understand, let him go. Park rangers don't talk about it, but they know. People go missing in those woods more often than the public realizes, and some of them come back different, or don't come back at all. Have you ever felt like the forest was watching you, that the trees knew you were there? Drop a comment, because this next story is about what happens when you ignore the warnings. In 2018, a group of urban explorers broke into an abandoned hospital on the outskirts of Winnipeg. The building had been closed since the 90s, falling apart. Asbestos, mold, structural damage, condemned. But they didn't care. They wanted footage, content, the thrill. There were 4 of them. 2 guys, 2 girls, all in their early 20s. They went in at midnight, brought cameras, flashlights, the usual gear. The first 2 floors were what they expected. Graffiti, broken windows, empty rooms, nothing unusual. But when they reached the 3rd floor, things changed. The air was colder, noticeably. Their breath misted, even though it was summer outside. And the smell, rot, decay, like something had died in the walls. One of the girls, Sarah, said she felt nauseous, dizzy, like the floor was tilting. The others felt it too, a wrongness, like their bodies knew they shouldn't be there. They found a hallway, long, narrow, doors on both sides, some open, some closed. At the end of the hallway was a double door, locked from the inside. They could see through the glass window. A room, dark, empty, except for a wheelchair sitting in the center, facing the door. One of the guys, Jake, joked about it, tried to lighten the mood, but no one laughed, because as they stood there, the wheelchair moved just slightly, like someone had pushed it. Slow, deliberate. They ran down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the building, and when they checked their footage later, most of it was corrupted, static, glitches, except for one clip. 30 seconds of Jake walking down that hallway. And in the background, barely visible, a figure standing in one of the doorways, watching him. It wasn't there when they were filming. They would have seen it, but on the recording, clear as day, pale, gaunt, hospital gown. They never went back. The building was demolished 6 months later, but the footage still exists online, and people still argue about it. Fake, real, edited, genuine. But those 4 people know what they felt, and they know what they saw, and no amount of skepticism will change that. Do you believe something can linger after death, that places can hold onto pain? Let me know what you think. The next story takes us to a phenomenon that's been documented across Manitoba for decades: shadow people. In 2010, a woman named Jennifer started seeing them in her apartment in Brandon, always in her peripheral vision. Tall, dark, human-shaped, but wrong. No features, no face, just presence. At first, she thought it was stress, long work hours, not enough sleep. But then her cat started acting strange, staring at corners, hissing at nothing, refusing to enter certain rooms. Then her daughter saw them too. A little girl, 4 years old. She'd point to empty hallways and say, "The dark man is there." She'd refuse to sleep alone, said the dark man stood by her bed, watching. Jennifer set up cameras, motion sensors, tried to document it, and the footage showed anomalies, shadows moving independently of light sources, shapes that appeared in frames and vanished in the next, unexplainable. She contacted local paranormal investigators. They came in with equipment, EMF readers, thermal cameras, voice recorders, and they recorded something. A voice, deep, distorted, saying a single word: "Leave." Jennifer moved out. 2 weeks later, the next tenant lasted 3 months. Same experiences, same shadows, same voice. The building is still occupied, but the turnover rate is high. People don't stay long, and those who do, they don't sleep well. Shadow people sightings have been reported all over Manitoba, Winnipeg, Thompson, Portage-la-Prairie. Always the same description: tall, dark, silent, watching. Some researchers think it's sleep paralysis, hallucinations, tricks of the mind. But when multiple people in different locations report identical encounters, it becomes harder to dismiss. What are they? Spirits? Interdimensional beings? Manifestations of fear? No one knows, but they're seen. They're real to those who experience them, and they're still out there, still watching. Have you ever seen something in the corner of your eye? Something that vanished when you looked directly at it? Tell me your story. If these accounts are making your heart race, subscribe and hit that bell. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. The next story is one of the most well-documented cases in Manitoba's recent history. In 2014, a family in Selkirk started experiencing what they described as a haunting. But this wasn't your typical haunting. This was violent, targeted, escalating. It started with objects moving, small things, keys, phones, remote controls, annoying but harmless. Then it got worse. Doors slamming, cabinets opening, lights flickering. all hours of the day and night. The mother, Patricia, kept a journal, documented every event, times, descriptions, witnesses. She wanted proof. She wanted answers. And then the activity turned physical. Scratches appeared on family members, 3 parallel lines, always on the back or shoulders, always while they slept. The youngest son woke up one night screaming. His sheets were torn. His mattress had claw marks, deep, like something with immense strength had shredded it. They called priests, blessed the house. Nothing changed. They called investigators, set up cameras, and what they captured was disturbing. Footage of objects levitating, a chair lifting off the ground and slamming into a wall, a knife flying across the kitchen and embedding itself in the doorframe, all on camera, all without explanation. The most chilling footage shows the son's bedroom, empty, quiet, and then the closet door opens slowly, and something moves inside. A shadow, darker than the darkness around it. It steps forward, pauses, and vanishes. The family eventually moved out. The house was blessed again, cleansed, sold to a new family. As far as anyone knows, the activity stopped. But Patricia still has the footage, still has the journal, and still doesn't have an answer. Was it a spirit? A demon? A psychological phenomenon affecting multiple people at once? The evidence exists, but the explanation doesn't. Do you think some places attract darkness? Or does darkness create itself? Let me know what you believe. The next story takes us back to the wilderness, to a hunting cabin deep in the northern forest. In 2011, 3 friends went hunting near Flin Flon, remote area. No cell service, just wilderness. They stayed in an old cabin they'd used for years. Rustic, no electricity, no running water, just a roof and 4 walls. The first 2 days were normal. Hunting during the day, cards, and whiskey at night. But on the 3rd night, something changed. They heard knocking on the door, slow, deliberate. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks again. One of the men, Robert, assumed it was an animal or wind. He ignored it. The knocking continued for 20 minutes. Same rhythm, same intensity. Finally, Robert opened the door. No one there, just trees, darkness, silence. He closed the door, locked it, sat back down, and the knocking started again, this time from the back wall, then the side wall, moving around the cabin, circling. They grabbed flashlights, went outside, checked the perimeter. Nothing. No tracks. No signs of animals. No footprints in the snow. Back inside, the knocking stopped. But now they heard something else. Footsteps on the roof. Heavy, slow, pacing back and forth. All 3 men heard it. All 3 looked at each other, and all 3 knew something was up there. Robert grabbed a rifle, went outside, shined a light on the roof. Nothing. But the moment he stepped back inside, the footsteps resumed. Heavier, faster, like whatever it was knew he was listening. They didn't sleep that night. Sat together, lights on, guns ready. The footsteps continued until dawn, and then silence. In the morning, they checked the roof. No prints, no marks, no damage. But the snow on the roof was disturbed, compressed, like something heavy had been walking there. They packed up left, and never went back to that cabin. Locals near Flin Flon have similar stories, cabins in the deep woods where people hear things, see things, encounters that don't have explanations. Some say it's Wendigo. Some say it's territorial spirits. Some say it's just the forest playing tricks on tired minds. But when 3 grown men with rifles refuse to stay another night, you have to wonder, what did they hear? What walked above them while they sat helpless below? Would you stay the night in a cabin like that, alone? Let me know. And now, the final story, the one that even seasoned investigators won't talk about openly. In 2007, a psychiatric nurse named Helen worked the night shift at a mental health facility in Winnipeg. She'd been there for 15 years, seen everything. Nothing surprised her anymore. Until Room 12. Room 12 was a long-term care room. A patient named David had been there for 8 years. Non-verbal, catatonic, no family, no visitors, just existing. Helen checked on him every night. Same routine, same vitals, same emptiness in his eyes. But one night in November, David was sitting up, staring at the wall. Helen approached slowly, asked if he was okay. He didn't respond, just kept staring. She followed his gaze. The wall was blank, white, nothing there. But David's eyes were tracking something, moving left to right, like he was watching something move. Helen felt a chill. The room was cold, too cold. Her breath misted. She checked the thermostat. Normal, but the temperature kept dropping. And then David spoke for the first time in 8 years. "She's here." Helen froze. "Who's here, David?" "She's here. She wants to go home." Helen backed toward the door. David's eyes never left the wall. And then he smiled, a wide, empty smile, and whispered, "She says you know her." Helen ran, called security. They found David lying down, eyes closed, back to his catatonic state, like nothing happened. Helen checked the records. 8 years ago, before David was admitted, a nurse had died in that room. Sudden cardiac event. Her name was Margaret, and Helen had worked with her, had been friends with her. Helen requested a transfer, never worked that ward again. David died 3 months later, peaceful, quiet, like he'd been waiting for permission to go. Room 12 was converted into storage. No patients assigned there anymore, but staff still report cold spots, shadows, and sometimes, late at night, the sound of footsteps, soft, familiar, like someone walking their rounds one last time. Do the dead linger where they fell? Do they wait for someone to remember them? Or are we the ones who can't let go? These 10 stories are real, documented, witnessed, and they happened right here in Manitoba, a place of beauty, isolation, and something else, something that hides in the cold, in the forests, in the silence. If these stories gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, because here at Chills from Reality, the darkness is just beginning, and some stories never really end. Stay safe out there, and remember, Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see, it's what sees you.